Topping our 2020 vision tonight, Biden's big cash haul. Former Vice President Joe Biden, as you know, finally jumped into the race on Thursday, and his focus on President Trump in his announcement, trying to make Trump the single biggest issue in the race. And that approach, well, might be working here. Biden, he pulled in $6.3 million in fundraising in his first 24 hours in the race, the biggest first-day windfall of any candidate, slightly more than was raised by Beto O'Rourke and Bernie Sanders, with fourth-place Kamala Harris bringing in less than a quarter of what Biden did. Now, Biden's entry, it will impact the landscape certainly for every other Democrat in the race, but perhaps none more so than South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Buttigieg and Biden, they're arguably in the same lane among Democrats, both more centrist candidates, and both are leaning on unity and a return to normalcy as keys to their campaigns. Plus, Biden's momentum, it could block Buttigieg's continued and, frankly, unexpected rise in the polls, especially given that Mayor Pete is just 37 years old and the first openly gay and married candidate seen to have a reasonable chance at being a major party nominee. Take a look at the numbers. Mayor Pete's rise has been as dramatic as it has been surprising. He's now up to fourth place nationally. That's behind Biden, Sanders, and Harris. And he's up to third in both Iowa, where Biden leads, and New Hampshire, where Sanders is the front runner. Well, today, Buttigieg went to Harlem, and that was to break bread with Reverend Al Sharpton. He also went there to make his case to minority voters that he has support, and he has their support compared to that from other white voters and our own Dominic Carter. He was on the ground for that meeting. Dominic joins us now.
It's the underdog campaign that is shaking up the 2020 race. South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Can you win, Mr. Mayor? Can you win a nomination?
Yep.
Buttigieg is polling well on the Democratic side, basically ahead of everyone except for Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. Reverend Al Sharpton broke bread with Buttigieg, a one-time Rhodes Scholar, here in the heart of Harlem at Sylvia's restaurant. The 37-year-old mayor of a Rust Belt city underwent a 7-month deployment to Afghanistan in the Navy Reserve. He would also be the first openly gay president to occupy the White House. Is America ready?
First of all, I'd say that language of America is just not ready is something we've heard before. I think it gives America very little credit. I wasn't sure when I came out back home in South Bend how South Bend would respond, but my community lifted me up.
Is it possible you might endorse him?
I have not made any decisions on endorsements. I'm meeting with everybody and pushing our agenda and want to know where people are on our agenda.
Not only was Buttigieg here in Harlem, he arrived via the 3 train. Buttigieg also said a blessing over his food, a fried chicken, collard greens, and macaroni and cheese before eating. In Harlem, I'm Dominic Carter. Richard, let's go back to you in the studio.
For analysis of Mayor Pete's lunch and campaign, let's bring in senior political correspondent Andrew Whitman.
I'm not going to analyze his lunch.
No. But is this somebody that we're not going to be talking about in September, or do you think that he's got a defined lane? People are going to be looking to him like Obama, that he's somebody different they haven't seen before? Or are we going to say, Mayor who?
I don't know if we're going to be talking about him in the same way that we talked about Obama, but I'm pretty sure we'll still be talking about him come September. He's done, his personal appearances and his online activity has been a bunch of the spark for this rise in the polls. And so once you get him on the debate stage next to the other candidates, I mean, that'll be the sink or swim moment for him. How presidential does he seem compared to everybody else?
He's avoided all talks of policy. Every time you try and pin him down on what he do, he wants to talk about the ethereal rather than, and that's where you take a position, you're going to tick somebody off.
So far, though, I mean, Elizabeth Warren has really been out in front on policy, same with Bernie Sanders, but a lot of the other candidates have not been as specific about policy. It's been more aspirational. It's been more inspiring people.
And he has, it's funny, I think it used to be if you have a short resume, that certainly was, if not a disqualifier, a certain, definitely something harmful. Nowadays, who the hell knows? That said, even in his time in South Bend, he cleared out the police chief, who was a person of color. People thought that he was, if not insensitive, certainly a little heavy-handed the way he dealt with some things. And like I said, yeah, maybe Rhodes Scholar, maybe, served in the military, certainly a fascinating biography, but in terms of political accomplishments or legislative ones, I'm done, right? That's all he's done.
Yeah, and look, the reason he went to go meet with Reverend Al today is pretty obvious. Not only are there issues remaining in South Bend, including some questions about police interaction with African American people in the city, but his numbers just aren't where they are compared to among white voters. He's lagging among black voters, he's lagging among Hispanic voters. Going to break bread with Reverend Al is a way to at least buoy that to a certain degree, or at least to try to.
For me, it's interesting because for him, without a resume, without coming from a city that would be a launching point, without being a progressive, which seems to be the part of the party that wants to be heard the loudest right now, somehow, some way, through charisma alone at least, he's managed to get where he has. So I'm not writing him off here, but I'm still trying to figure it all out. When we come back here, another mass shooting at another house of worship and another act of anti-Semitism. What is behind this tangible rise in hate? And what should the response be from our leaders? And what is at risk if the response never comes? We're going to ask a man who helped actually guide the nation's hate crime laws for his take next.